What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's the Gameweek 19 preview. So I'm going to go through some of the topics and questions that you guys have put to me, give you my thoughts, opinions as normal, as well as captaincy as well, so who might be the best captaincy options to look at for Gameweek 19. It's Christmas Eve, hence the jumper and the hat. If you want to treat yourself to a nice early free Christmas present, make sure you download OneFootball. They're sponsoring the video once again today. Link is in the description below, or you can just search OneFootball on iOS and Android stores. Get all your football news, team news, lineups and live scores and stuff all over the Christmas period when there's loads of fixtures coming. So make sure you download that completely free. Give it a go and we'll jump into this one. So the first thing, probably the biggest thing this week, is Son replacements. Got his red card, gonna miss 3 games. A lot of people talking about whether that red card will be rescinded, but given the fact that VAR kind of gave him the red card in the first place, and he kicked out, I just don't think there's any appeal to be done there. So he's going to miss 3 games. Unfortunate because it's Brighton at home, then Southampton and Norwich away. I'd kind of earmarked him as my captain for these 3 game weeks, but got to get rid of him now. So a lot of people looking at replacements, obviously. And a lot of this is going to depend on kind of team structures, how much money you got in the bank and all that stuff. Obviously, it's easy to say go up to Salah, Mane, Sterling, etc. But if you've not got the money, then that might be more difficult. So we're going to talk about a bunch of replacements and kind of quick thoughts on them. So I think if you were one of those people that used Mane or Salah, whoever you own, to get Son in, I think reversing that straight away, if you can do it in one free transfer, seems like the best bet, the safest bet maybe. I know Liverpool's fixtures aren't fantastic. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail later on in the video, but they're still pretty good and you expect them to score, and Salah or Mane are going to be involved in that for sure. And you're going to want them longer term anyway. So I think reversing that's probably the number one. Obviously, De Bruyne and Sterling look good as well. But De Bruyne is kind of a straight replacement. Sterling's a bit more of an increase in money, so it depends who you've got. I do think between Salah and Mane it's close. I think stats-wise Salah's still ahead as normal, but Mane's still ahead on points for the season. I think it's always easier to think that the grass is greener and that if you've got Mane, Salah's the better option. If you've got Salah, Mane is the better option. But just pick one and stick with it, I think, for now. I still don't think there's too much between them. In terms of like a straight swap to another Spurs player, then Ali looks good on paper, I think. Only 3 shots inside the box in the last 4 games, which is a little bit disappointing. I will say last time I saw him having low shooting stats in the box, and I was kind of put off him a little bit, he went and scored a brace against Bournemouth. So we'll see if he does that again. And they have had some, tough enough fixtures in the last kind of 4. They've not been an easy 4. It's not like he's had chances and not taken them. It's just been a difficult kind of 4 fixtures. So you'd hope with kind of Brighton at home, Southampton, Norwich away, that would improve a little bit. Lucas Moura, you'd expect him to, but I mean, he's only missed, I think, 1 game under Mourinho so far. So it's looking pretty nailed on anyway. Obviously, in bigger games, we've seen maybe Sissoko can play on that wide position. But given that Son is out, Mourinho's going to want more as pacer. He could be an option as well. Similar kind of stats to Ali, so nothing to write home about, but the fixtures are there. Pogba's an interesting one. A lot of people not going to want to go there because of Man United. They didn't play well against Watford. But when he came back into the side, or when he came on against Watford, Man United did look a lot better. So he could be someone to look at. You're going to get in ahead of the curve. You're going to get him while he's a low owned differential. Still a good price. All it's going to take is a goal and an assist or something from Pogba, and his price is going to start increasing because the bandwagon will start extremely quickly. So if he's someone you want to take a punt on, we saw him do well kind of this time last year. New manager bounce, of course. No new manager this time around. But maybe he's playing for a place away from Man United or whatever it might be. But he looked good against Watford and he definitely changed how Man United attack. So he could be an option. A few people looking at Mahrez, 3.8% ownership. I get it. He looked good against Leicester. Very greedy as we like him. Shooting a lot. He's only started 1 of the last 4 games. Now, granted, he's got 3 attacking returns in that time. Nothing to be sniffed at given the minutes that he has played. So if he does get minutes, you would expect him to get points. But I just don't know where these starts are coming from all of a sudden. So I don't really get the love there. Grealish, good fixtures, but McGinn is out. Will that hurt Aston Villa? I think he's the talisman. If they're going to score, it's going to be through him. Fixtures are pretty good for Aston Villa as well. He's probably not on penalties. They're going to go to Wesley when Wesley is on the pitch. So if you need to save some money, you could look at someone like Grealish. It's not really where I'm looking. And like I said, Sterling, De Bruyne, that could be a nice double up as a bit of a differential. Slightly better fixtures than Liverpool. Perhaps that's a way to get ahead of the curve. So there's a lot of options to choose from. Richarlison's another one. I just think Everton's next 8 fixtures are pretty good. I'm just not sure about Burnley at home, Newcastle away, and City away. 2 away games, one of them being Man City. I'm not sure how good Richarlison will be for there, but new manager bounce, etc. could be a good option. So potentially one to look out for some replacements. Just quickly going through the other points. Aguero return. I mean, if there was ever a differential that you wanted, it would be Sergio Aguero. Phenomenal record. 9.9% overall ownership. That's going to be even less when you look at live teams. A lot of people would have had him early in the season and just given up and still have him in their teams. Wolves away, tricky enough, I think, for Man City. But then Sheffield United at home, Everton at home, Villa away, Palace at home. So, like I said, it is a better set of fixtures, I think, than Liverpool. So it could be a differential. I think if you've got the structure to just put him straight in with one free transfer, maybe it's worth a punt. But he's not guaranteed to start. Jesus has been doing okay. And I just don't think over Christmas is going to be rotation anyway, of course. So coming back from like a long-term injury, you wouldn't expect him to start all those games. So 11.7 million. I know people want him to be that pick, and maybe he will be. Maybe he'll be that differential. If you've got a good bench, you could just risk it. But I just think it's so much money to not be guaranteed start. So that would put me off. What to do with Jimenez? A lot of people, I feel like it's a lot of people asking this. I'm not sure in reality it probably is. But what to do with Jimenez ahead of Man City and Liverpool? Man City at home, Liverpool away. I mean, is there even any question? You keep him, surely. I mean, I sold him. I regret getting rid of him. Feels like ever since I did, I've just been locked into not having enough money to play around. Rashford's blanked twice. Jimenez has scored twice. Oh, sorry, got attack and returns twice. He's only blanked twice in 11 games. After City-Liverpool, the fixtures are pretty good. And I think for City-Liverpool, if you could get one attack and return across those two games, you'd be pretty happy to just own him. And over a period where there's maybe rotation worries and he will probably not be rotated. I think he's one of those players that will probably play both games. Then it's Watford, Newcastle, Southampton after that. So it's a keep for me. I don't even think there's any questions about getting rid of him for me. And then rotation, it's finally here. So people worried about rotation, Liverpool stuff. I've spoken about this quite a lot over the last few months. So I don't want to get too much into it, or in the last month, kind of running up to Christmas. You know, what will you do about Liverpool? Will they be rotated? Anyone could get rotated over this period. We got games on Boxing Day on Thursday, City play on Friday, and then it's only a couple of days till the next game week. So people will get rotated, but it's impossible to call who will. You know, players like Richarlison might play twice, Jimenez might play twice, attackers like that, Dele Alli could play twice. But we will see attackers get rotated. Defenders maybe not so much, especially centre-backs. You know, the likes of Van Dijk, Maguire, they're going to play every single game for the most part. Just have your bench in order, I think. Just make sure you've got them in the subs in the right place. I will probably be personally limiting my hits a bit more because I'm just not sure who to bring in and who's definitely going to play. Obviously, after Boxing Day, if we see some rotation then we've got a better inclination for the next game week about who might start and who might not. But I just don't think it's worth worrying about. There wasn't a huge amount of rotation over Christmas last year. I'm not expecting it to be that much different this year, so don't panic too much. Just get on with it, get your bench in order, job done. So some people now looking at the Salah Mane double up, obviously talked about with some replacements, maybe getting one of these back. But what about getting two? And I think from game week 25, given the lack of clean sheets, maybe people are put off a bit by the defenders having Robertson and Trent. Obviously, you probably want one come game week 25, but you're definitely going to want to look at two attackers, I think, given the fixtures they've got. Now, I've spoken quite a lot about their fixtures in recent times, so I don't want to bang on about it again, but it is probably a period over the course of the season where it's probably one of their tougher fixture runs. Will they still get wins? Sure. Will they still score goals? Probably yes. Obviously, they'll need them to get those wins. But will they score as many? I don't know. It could be a time when the goals are kind of down. They maybe shore up the defence to try and get the wins kind of 1-2-0, whatever it might be. Leicester away, Wolves at home, Sheffield United at home, Spurs away, Man United at home, Wolves away. And people will look at that, well, Spurs just lost to Chelsea, but it's going to be a tight game. Man United not doing that well this season. Well, they always keep these games tight. Wolves away, haven't conceded more than 2 for a long time. I just think the fact that it's Sheffield United and Wolves at home in the next 3, that probably makes it a little bit better. One thing I will say is I kept Mane. I didn't sell him for the blank. And given how the weekend went, obviously Ali didn't do anything, Son got red card. I was really happy to have Mane. He's been so consistent. I'm glad to have him back in my team, even though the fixtures are tough. Now, would I double up? I think if you could easily do it, and when I say easy, I mean if you've got the money to do it without having to compromise too much. So I would have to probably compromise quite a bit to get 2 Liverpool players. I definitely wouldn't be able to get a Liverpool defender back. I'd have to have 2 really cheap strikers as well. I just don't have the team value for it. If I did, I'd definitely consider it. They're going to be consistent. Salah looks like he's on a bit of a roll recently. Like Mane, like I said, you can't, grass is always greener, but Mane's been so good for so long. You definitely can't count him out either. And obviously Salah has penalties and stuff when Milner's not on the pitch. So I like the double up. I don't think it's the worst time to do it, but I do think there could be some frustration there if kind of the Spurs, Man United, Wolves games are kept down to a minimum. It's not like Sheffield United are really getting battered this season either. So I think there's probably better ways to spend the money, but I also don't think it's an awful idea. And I know that's sitting on the fence a bit, but it's really going to depend on your kind of team structure and and kind of squad value and stuff like that. Rashford, patience. Obviously, a lot of people frustrated with him. If you bought him in ahead of Everton and Watford especially, I did that. Super frustrated watching that Watford game. Just wasn't very good at all. Man United in general, to be honest, were just awful. Made worse, I think, by the fact that a lot of us shipped Jimenez, who's got 2 attacking returns in the last 2. So just all around, it was just a bad transfer so far. Newcastle at home, Burnley away, Arsenal away, Norwich at home in the next 4. So decent enough. I think the Arsenal game is good. Newcastle could be good. I think under Steve Bruce, they're still well organised. Not quite Rafa Benitez levels of defending, but decent enough. Did look poor against Watford, but did have that chance at the end, Rashford, which, you know, on another day he puts that away. There was a chance when Pogba came on that Pogba took himself. On another day he could have easily squared that. Rashford has a tap in at the back post, and we're not even really talking about this at all. So, again, I think it depends on your situation. If you've got 2 free transfers, Rashford money could help, but, you know, by downgrading him, maybe go to Ings to more pay and putting that money into midfield, fair enough. I think if you don't desperately need the money, if you've only got 1 free transfer, you maybe want to save it for a bit. I don't think there's any harm in having a bit of patience, giving him the Newcastle a home game, Boxing Day at Old Trafford. Pogba's back. Let's hope he starts. He was way more creative when he was on the pitch than when he wasn't. And let's see how Rashford does. He's been in form. Let's not give up just yet. But in the back of my mind, I know that at some point I'm going to need money. And Rashford is probably the one that I'm going to get it from. So we'll see what happens. Talking of kind of forwards, and we're talking about them a lot, Ings with the fixtures obviously scored 2 goals against Aston Villa, so keeps up his consistent scoring run. Has barely blanked at all in the last few weeks. Should you bring him in even with the fixtures? So just remind ourselves what the fixtures are. They do get a bit more difficult now. Chelsea away, Palace at home, Spurs at home, Leicester away, Wolves at home, Palace away. So not too good. I suppose the Spurs games at home, Chelsea maybe haven't looked great defensively. Obviously, they kept a clean sheet against Spurs. But in general, they've been okay defensively, I would say. They're not easy fixtures, but can he get goals? He can. Now, when I brought him in, I looked back at the fixtures he played, and he'd already played a bunch of tough teams, and they scored like 1 goal a game. You know, sometimes he didn't get bonus, but often he does. Because he's quite clinical. He doesn't have a huge amount of shots off target and stuff like that. So when he does score, he's right up the bonus point straight away. So 9 shots in the last 4. That's the same as Mahrez, same as Morpay, only 1 less than Jimenez and Sterling. When the guy plays, he gets shots, and when he does, he scores. The only thing I think to be put off with him is his injury record, which he's played a lot of games in a row, a lot of games kind of with quick turnarounds, and there's been no issues there. I think it's a good time to buy him still. Now, Morpay is a different consideration. He's got better fixtures. He's in pretty good form as well, and he's much lower owned, so you could go for him. But Danny Ings, I think, even in the past, like he's had a really bad injury record, but even in the past, when he's played, he's done well, and he's showing that under Southampton now that he's got a consistent run of starts. So I think he's still a good player to pick this week if you need a cheap striker. But I would look at Morpay as well if you want someone with better fixtures and definitely a differential. And talking of differential, Mahrez, and I've kind of talked about him already, but a good few people going for him. But the Leicester game was good. He was greedy, a bit annoyingly at times, because I thought a few times he could have passed De Bruyne. But people looking at getting him, 1 start in the last 4. I've kind of already mentioned all this. 2 goals, 1 assist. He's still 8.3 million over Christmas. There's going to be a rotation, of course. There's no way he's going to get the next 2 or 3 starts in a row. For me, it's just too much money to have on my bench. I just want a player at that price that I can play every week. Richarlison, maybe a bit more money to spend on Dele Alli, Lucas Moura for a cheaper, Pogba around the same price. For me, the lineup for Man City is always going to be Sterling, 1 striker, Jesus or Aguero, plus 1 on the right. And it's going to be Mahrez sometimes, and often it's going to be not. So it's too much money for me. It seems to, I don't know if it's just because of how well he played against Leicester, but a bit of buzz about him in the community. I got asked about him a few times, but for me, it's definitely a no-go. So captaincy, a bit like Game Week 18, there are so many players we could choose from potentially. There's not really a massive standout pick. I'm sure some people disagree. They've probably got their one player in mind, and that is the only one this week, which is fair enough. So there's a lot of punts to talk about. Not necessarily punts, but players that I've not put on the main screen. So you've got Pukki versus Villa. No matter what you think of Villa defensively, Mings isn't there. They're conceding a lot of shots, and they have all season. I thought Norwich looked very good in their last game as well. Buendia created 9 chances all on his own, and Pukki should have got a goal or 2 in that game. I watched that. against Wolves. So they should have done better. So Pukki versus Villa, definitely if you own him, that could be an outside punt. A bit like Ings versus Villa last week. Richarlison versus Burnley, if you think there's going to be some new manager bounce, he's been in some pretty good form as well. You imagine he keeps his place in the first 11. Man United versus Newcastle, look, Pogba, Rashford, if you think they can turn it on with Pogba in the team. If it's another performance against like Watford though, I would not be happy watching that match with Rashford or Pogba as my captain. And Lundstram, let's mention him, Watford at home. Potential for a clean sheet, potential for attacking returns, as we know. The only thing that would put me off is Watford have looked better in their last 2 games against Liverpool and Man United. Obviously got the win against United, didn't against Liverpool. If they put away some of those chances, it would have been a different story. So I don't necessarily massively like Lundstram's chances of a clean sheet, although obviously Sheffield United are very good defensively. But he's got attacking returns there. I couldn't be having a defender or someone listed as a defender as my captain. But I wanted to mention him anyway because I know some people are considering it. So let's have a look at the options I picked out. So Spurs versus Brighton on paper looks good. I kind of spoken about this already. Last 4 games, shots in the box. Kane 6, Ali 3, Moura 3. The fixtures weren't great though. So they've played Man United away, Burnley at home, Wolves away and Chelsea at home. Not really easy. 2 top 6 games. Wolves away is always difficult as well. Burnley at home, not so much maybe. But not great. But I just think because of the fixture on paper, it looks good. I think any of these options could be a good potential for captaincy. Brighton, middle of the road for shots conceded in the box. So they're not doing great. They're not doing awful either. And I'm hoping a lot will depend on who comes in for Son, because he's been pretty creative. Not necessarily so much goal threat recently, but pretty good on the old chances created and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that Eriksen will come in for a bit of creativity. How that formation will look then, where Moura will play, where Ali will play, etc. I don't know. And obviously Mourinho has spoken about Ali playing as a second striker, so I don't know how Eriksen necessarily fits into that. But we've seen kind of Eriksen, Ali +1 play before, so it could work. So I like Ali as an option, or Kane if you own him. If you own Kane against Brighton at home, I'd be pretty tempted by that, to be honest. Leicester versus Liverpool. Leicester versus Man City was pretty open. I think this game will be 2. It's very hard to argue against Vardy. I didn't go for him because I thought his absolute ceiling was 3 bonus points plus a goal. That's exactly what he got. 9 points would have actually been a great captain last week. So it's hard to argue against him. I think against City, they had a clear tactic to get the ball in behind the defence, obviously like round the side or whatever it might be, and that's how they got their goal. And I think they often try this, Madison gets the ball, he looks for Vardy. That is going to be more difficult, I think, against Liverpool. Van Dijk's not a slouch when it comes to tracking forwards, and obviously neither are Trent Alexander-Arnold or Robertson as well, and I expect them all to play a full normal back 4 for Liverpool there. So I think it's going to be tougher for Vardy to score in this one, but it is at home, which makes it better. He's definitely going to play this game. I know Rodgers has kind of spoken about rotation a bit with Vardy and Leicester, but surely he plays against Liverpool. If they can cut the gap, this would be a huge game to get a win in. So I think this is going to be quite open. I think it's going to be good for Vardy, and it is at home, so it's very hard to argue against him at all. And then you've got Mane and Salah. They're going to be on a high after the World Club Cup. Consistent performers. It is away from home. Leicester defensive have been okay, but I think Man City showed that they are there for the taking if you go at them, and Liverpool are going to do that. Whether or not they've got the kind of energy after all the travel and stuff, I don't know. And obviously they've got another fixture to think about coming quick, but getting a win ahead of Leicester, one of their rivals at this point, again, will be massive for them. So I think it could be quite an open game. I like Vardy, I like Salah, I like Mane. I think they're probably some of the top options this week. Wolves versus Man City. Wolves haven't conceded more than 2 goals since, they've only conceded more than 2 goals twice this season, Gameweek 4 and 5. It's been a long time. Not really expecting City to have it all their own way. De Bruyne has been in such good form, it's hard to back against him. Even Sterling's looking pretty good as well at the moment. I just think that game has got the kind of makings of Wolves just defending well, keeping it down to 1 or 2 goals, and then you just, who's going to be involved from Man City? They've all got the potential to score goals. So that's why I'd be put off De Bruyne or Sterling. And I think the Liverpool-Leicester game could be a better option. And then, as I always say, Chelsea always seem to come up as one of the options, maybe an outside punt for Abraham. Not really been scoring too many, but looked good against Spurs. Still having plenty of shots in the box, 13 over the last 4. I think Pulisic, he might come back for this game, but given that he missed out the last game, it's pretty frustrating for owners, so you're not going to captain him. And as good as Mount looked against Spurs, you're not going to captain him either. So Abraham looks good. So I think Spurs on paper looks the best fixture, but Leicester and Liverpool could be open. Who wants to argue against Vardy? He's probably the best option again this week. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It is Christmas, so make sure you leave a like on the video. It'd be much appreciated as always. Subscribe if you're new around here. That'll let you know when all my videos are going live if you hit that notification bell. And I did want to just say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you're celebrating. Thanks for all your support this year. It's been much appreciated. I hope you have a really good time over Christmas. If that's what you're up to, have a nice break. Maybe think about FPL just a tiny bit less. Not completely less, though. There is a massive important game week coming up on Boxing Day. In terms of content, this will probably be it now before Boxing Day. I've done the stream, team selection, and the game week preview. And then there'll be more videos on Thursday and Friday as we go into Game Week 20 as well. So plenty of stuff to come on the channel. So make sure you do subscribe. And it's also going to be my 3-year kind of anniversary of making FPL content on the 30th of December, 3 years to the day. So there'll probably be a stream on that day as well. So make sure you tune in for that. And leave a comment below if you've got anything to say about what I've said in this video, anything you disagree with, any other questions you've got. All that good stuff as normal. And lastly, like I said, treat yourself to an early Christmas present, completely free, OneFootball. Link in the description below, or search OneFootball on Android, iOS stores. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Have a great Christmas, and I will see you afterwards. Cheers all.